Welcome everyone, I'm Yashni Pandiachi and this is Africa Matters. This week we go to Malindi in Kenya, which is witnessing one of the worst ever cult-related mass death events. We'll also catch up with the rebuilding efforts in Malawi after the devastating Cyclone Freddy hit last month. And we'll make a stop in Cameroon, where local shoe producers are edging out imported brands. We begin in Kenya, where an investigation into a cult-related mass death event continues near the coastal city of Malindi in the southeast of the country. Authorities say Paul Ntenge Mackenzie is at the center of their inquiry after dozens of bodies were found buried in shallow graves on his 800-acre farm in the Shakahola forest. Witnesses say Mackenzie, a pastor, encouraged his followers to starve themselves to death in order to get to heaven faster. Hundreds of people are still missing, and Anne Masharia met with some of their family members in Malindi.
Devastation engulfs Malindi Hospital in Kenya as families and friends gather to identify bodies recovered from Shakahola forest. There are so many victims that the hospital had to find extra storage facilities. 33-year-old Timothy Nakulunda is yet to find his mother-in-law, who was a follower of the arrested Pastor Paul Ntenge Mackenzie of the Good News Church.
I'm here to look for a missing person. I have not found her. There's a container that has arrived, so I am hopeful I'll find her.
Mackenzie, a taxi driver turned pastor, is believed to have told his followers to starve themselves to death so that they could go to heaven. For families that have identified their relatives, burial preparations are ongoing. A small army of counselors, many in Kenya Red Cross vest, were deployed to lend support. Kenya Red Cross officials hope that families gathered here will locate their loved ones.
What we are doing as Kenya Red Cross is to register their names and details of these victims. And then so far we have registered over 320 missing people. And out of these 320 missing people, 50% are children below 18 years.
The rescue operation to attempt anyone alive on Pastor Mackenzie's 800-acre stretch of land is ongoing. Mackenzie is set to be arraigned in court on May the 2nd, but investigators warn that the full death toll associated with the cult could take months to unearth.
Kenya's religious community is now under scrutiny, with many calling for more government regulation. Many of those who lost their loved ones hope that those found guilty will be punished. The question, however, remains, what can be done to stop this from happening again? Anne Masharia, Africa Matters, Malindi, Kenya.
Questions are now being raised about how the deaths of hundreds of people could have gone unnoticed. Let's take a closer look at how the cult came to be. Many of the victims are believed to have been members of the Good News International Church, founded by Paul Ntenge Mackenzie in 2003. He moved to Shakahola village with a few of his members 16 years later. Mackenzie told his followers to quit their jobs and drop out of school and discourage them from seeking treatment when they were sick. He also invited them to live on his farm, which has no running water or electricity. There, they were instructed to starve themselves to death in order to enter heaven. Rights groups say about half of the victims are children. The televangelist was arrested in March after 2 children starved to death in the custody of their parents, and he was later released on bail. Well, let's hear now from Gideon Nyoke. He's an advocate of the Kenyan High Court. He's speaking to us from Nairobi in Kenya. Gideon, it's good to have you on Africa Matters. Let's just start with the legal aspect of all of this, because Paul Mackenzie is in police custody. But what is he being charged with? And what is the case that police have to prove against him in order for these charges to stick?
And the difficulty is that the prosecution may encounter in charging Mr. Mackenzie is these people went to the church through their free will. It was something which happened over a long period of time. And the other challenge is they had been promised that once they starve and die, they will meet Jesus. So one of them, the complex issue here to prove is whether those who have died have gone to heaven. And That's why it's not been an easy case. And he has been arrested before in 2018. He was arrested and released. But the government is considering to charge him with terrorism charges because of the mass murder that happened, and also him giving misleading information that led to the loss of life.
If he'd been arrested in 2018 and he was looked into with regards to terrorism, how then was this particular cult, where bodies are still being dug up, how were they able to operate undetected for such a long time?
In the village where people have been found, it's an expansive area, 800 acres. So in an area where it's an 800 acres piece of land, it's very easy for people to conduct their activities and unnoticed. But at some point in 2019, the local leaders had raised an issue, and it seems like there was a laxity in the security sector, where they never took those issues seriously. And even how this was uncovered is when people reported that some of their kin were missing and some bodies were found in near his homestead, and the police started to investigate. And also one of the members who are the leaders in the church were arrested, and they gave information that there are so many people who have been buried in the expansive piece of land. That's now when we have started to see these things coming out. But the reason why it took time to discover is because the piece of land is an expansive piece of land, and also it's in the village. So he was able to hide his activities.
Has the government and the investigation into this, has it been transparent over the last few days? Is there a sense that authorities know what they're searching for, what they're doing, and does the public trust in the process?
I think, unlike the previous arrest in 2018, the arrest of Mackenzie and also the investigation that has been undertaken, you can see some seriousness because the Inspector General visited the area, and also the Minister for Internal. There is some seriousness in the matter, and the government is at least now is updating the people, and they have taken a keen interest even in the recovery, and also going into the farm. It's a bit serious compared to the last time.
Gideon, there have now been calls to regulate churches and those working in the church, but some are saying that this infringes on religious rights and religious freedoms. What are your thoughts on that?
It's true. Article 32 of the Kenyan Constitution provides for freedom of religion and conscience. But we know even in our Constitution that rights and freedom can be limited. So it's a tough balancing act, considering that if the government want to introduce some regulation to the religion, it will be difficult for the government to know how far can they regulate. But in terms of the messaging and how people register churches, there were some regulations that had been proposed in the previous government. So the government can take up on that by ensuring that those people who are undertaking to open churches or to undertake religious activities, at least have some, they have some background check on them. But also considering now the supremacy of the Constitution, the same might be challenged. But there's need for regulation to avoid people abusing other people by giving them hope either to go to heaven or to do something which is harmful to their lives. So there's that challenge, but the government will still need to come up with regulation on either how you open a church, if you go to if you mislead people where they lose lives or their rights will be limited, then they can regulate on that aspect.
Gideon, the people who have been rescued from this cult, many of them are saying they still want to be part of this religious cult. How does the government start to help them? What authorities, what are their responsibilities here?
One, these people need psychological counseling. They also need support, and they also need to be taught that for you to go and meet Jesus or to go to heaven, you don't need to starve yourself. So first is they need first to take care of their health for those who had been those who had health issues. Then after that, they can be able to take them through a program where they can teach them on the rights on the right theology in terms of the religion, and also they can be able to help them and give them something to do so that they cannot be misled by in future with regards to matters religion.
Yeah, and here's hoping that they will be able to receive that help and that justice in this situation will be served. Gideon Nyoke, live to us there from the Kenyan capital. Thank you so much for your expertise and analysis. Malawi, Mozambique and Madagascar are still recovering from the devastation left by Cyclone Freddy in March. In Malawi, a group of locals has come together to build new homes for those who lost everything in the storm. Lamek Masina reports from Blantyre, Malawi.
Memories of how the Chikopa family in the Lunzu area in Blantyre escaped from Cyclone Freddy's devastation in March still linger.
We were asleep when the wall of the house fell. I shouted at the top of my voice to awaken my siblings who were fast asleep. We all went outside. Fortunately, our neighbor heard our cries and took us into her house.
After staying at the neighbor's house for weeks, Chikopa's family is now heaving a sigh of relief. The family is among beneficiaries of a low-cost housing initiative run by a group of well-wishers who have volunteered to help poor people who lost their homes to the cyclone.
We're now happy that they will be free again in our own house. The time our house fell, we stopped going to school because we lost everything.
Renowned Malawian entrepreneur Kondwanika Chamba Ngwira kick-started the initiative in March after selling some of his property to raise money to help cyclone victims. However, many Malawians of goodwill have now joined the initiative by contributing a minimum of about $10 every month, while others contribute building materials like cement and metal sheeting.
If the family is small, we give them one bedroom, one sitting room and stores. If the family is a bit big, we give them 2 rooms. Maximum is 2 rooms. We wish we would do more, but on financial grounds, we cannot manage.
7 houses have so far been built in 14 days, but critics question the durability of the houses, which takes a minimum of 80 days to construct.
Initiative provides relief and hope for many people who lost their homes to the cyclone. The project's organizers say when funds are available, their plan is to relocate and build poor houses to people who live in disaster-prone areas.
I'm so happy that now my life is safe. I will have a peaceful sleep, and I'm sure that the rains will never destroy this house again, because it has been constructed with cement and concrete right from the foundation. I will never get worried about the rains.
The initiative provides jobs like fetching water and delivering bricks to people around the project area. In the meantime, the initiative is looking for more land to construct the targeted 400 houses and even more for people living in disaster-prone areas. Lamek Masina, Africa Matters, Blantyre, Malawi.
Most footwear in Cameroon comes from abroad, but more people are now buying locally made shoes as domestic manufacturers band together to reduce dependence on imports. Paul Nje reports from the city of Buea, where the business is booming.
This is Malingo, A street in the southwestern Cameroonian city of Buea, where the production of local footwear is gaining speed. Ngala Stanley and his team are currently producing new pairs of sandals and slippers, a local favorite in this part of the country. Most of the job is done by hand. Local producers rely on leather and other products to manufacture homemade shoes and sandals. Demand for locally made shoes has grown as many turn away from imported footwear, which dominate the Cameroonian market.
I prefer locally made shoes because they take a long time before they get bad.
Imports slow the local market, but contrary to popular opinion, producers say the trade is profitable.
I think so far the business has not been doing bad for me. He has been paying the bills, and I've been able to save some money to rather reinvest it back in the business in one way or other.
Statistics from the UN Comtrade database on international trade revealed that in 2018, Cameroon imported footwear and like products worth about $23 million. Analysts suggest that imports be capped to promote local production and boost the economy.
You already have local producers who are willing to work with government. So government should put in money, government should support them in all the ways so that they can improve on their production.
Beijing Guy Marie mostly imports his shoes from Holland, Belgium and Morocco. But in his own way, he also promotes the homegrown industry by dedicating a part of his shop for local footwear.
These guys do a marvelous job here in the country, and we are working with them. Lucien is one of the guys that I've been dealing with for more than a decade now, and he's really doing a good job. When we bring the things, the sandals, the shoes, like people are really surprised. They're amazed that, like, wow, is this locally made?
Footwear like these symbolize a genuine attempt by local manufacturers to put made in Cameroon products in the spotlight. But competition with vendors of imported shoes remains stiff. That's why shoemakers here have formed a union to encourage collaboration and to train more people in the craft. Shoemakers here meet every Monday to discuss issues about their union. And as they think of ways to win new customers, they also run a funding scheme to help one another in times of need. Local footwear production in Cameroon might still be dominated by men, but despite the challenges, more women are getting involved. Paul Njie, Africa Matters, Buea, Cameroon.
In the Ivory Coast, a 50-year-old building has become a medium for local and international artists. The architectural gem, located in the country's capital and bustling business district, is being turned into a massive mural. Yunus Emre has more.
Artists in Abidjan are taking on their biggest canvas yet, the exterior of a 15-story building. A remnant of architectural innovation from the 1970s, the pyramid fell into disuse 20 years ago. But it's now being given a new face.
It is a building quite emblematic of the Abidjan skyline, part of the brutalist era of architecture that was very popular in Europe. For example, the pyramid building was exhibited at the Museum of Modern Art in New York in the 70s and 80s.
Back in its heyday, the contemporary building was once a symbol of Ivorian wealth. It's now part of the Pyramid 2023 project. And artists are covering it in massive, detailed and colorful murals, giving it hope of a brighter future.
I think it's a rather futuristic building, but it's one that's been left and neglected. To make it so that we have a new, interesting look this time, to question the rehabilitation is a project that I take immense pleasure in. And it's also a way for me to be able to take part in the writing of a story that's happening here, now.
The narrative is about the development and portrayal of Ivorian culture and history. But as Lemon Aro, the artistic director of the project, explains, the process is just as important as the final product.
There are beginners here, established artists, young people from the Ivorian Art College, young people from the Children's Hut, that's an orphan support foundation. We're all here to work together. In a way, that was the main objective.
The Ministry of Construction and Urbanism says the renovation must respect the original architecture, but bringing color to a beige facade of 15 stories while protecting the integrity of this important landmark might be front and center to the brief. The artists are proving that's a tall order they can cover. Yunus Emre, Africa Matters.
Despite global popularity, the thrilling world of motorsports has a diversity problem. 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton is the only black driver on the grid in Formula One. MotoGP is largely dominated by European racers. But as Rahul Radhakrishnan reports, one young South African is determined to change that.
14-year-old Ora is in pursuit of his dream to one day break barriers in international motorcycle racing.
Overseas, there's not really a lot of black races there. So then it's really something I want to do, be the first black person to be racing overseas in a series of MotoGP overseas.
Ora's biggest supporter is his father.
My dad would usually take me to track days that he would do because he used to ride. He would take me to track days and I'd always be fascinated at seeing bikes. And then eventually he got me a small little pocket bike and then I started from there.
His father, also a motorcycle enthusiast, sold his own bike to invest in Ora's dream. He ensures his son's bike is in tip-top shape before every race.
It is so fulfilling to see him excel and do so well. And you know, sometimes you think, he's very good at this. And then when you hear other people tell you the same thing, then, and especially people that are very good at this and that have been doing it for years, then you know, that's when you're like, yeah, no, honestly, my son is, he just makes my eyes, you know, swell up with pride. I can't put it into words. He makes me so proud.
Twisting the throttle since he was 4, Ora's proved his skills in local competitions. What revs his engines, he says, is the lack of black representation in the international sport. His riding coach doesn't doubt Ora's potential.
The biggest thing which gives Ora the potential to go all the way to the top is that he's got the right mindset. He's very driven, very hungry, fully committed. And I'm watching, you know, a young man grow up before my eyes. I hope to point him in the right direction.
The motorcycle Grand Prix is largely dominated by European racers. Brad Binder is the first and only South African to win a race in MotoGP. But Ora's dreams are bigger than being like his idol.
I really want to get there and be a champion. I want to be one of the first South African champions as well.
And to that goal, Ora is determined to go full throttle. Rahul Radhakrishnan, Africa Matters.
We explore Fort Portal, a city in western Uganda. It's the center of the Turo Kingdom, which dates back to the 16th century. It's home to Africa's youngest tribal leader, Oyo Onimba, who ascended to the throne in 1995 when he was just 3.5 years old. And that's our show this week. Do kindly share your thoughts and suggestions about the stories on this episode or ideas on what you'd like us to cover. You can go to Twitter and use the hashtag Africa Matters. You can also watch this episode and more on YouTube. Just search Africa Matters TRT World. Like, comment and share. Until the next time, take care. Bye-bye.